Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Doc and Lefty program, broadcasting to you from the downtown Des Moines studios of webcast1live.com. I am Lefty. As always, we're bringing you the perspectives you love from the sides you hate. And with me across the country, across the sea, he's still looking for that birth certificate, is my good friend, partner, and neighbor, and partner in crime, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh. Doc, what's up, man?
You know, not much. Like I usually say, not my weight, but not my weight's up, but not my IQ.
Fair enough.
Well, I've been having some of this great Hawaiian food. Been out walking on the beach. I'm losing some weight, and I'm going to tell you, those people from Hawaii protect Obama to the last core of their being. It doesn't matter what it is.
Does that say?
Don't want this? Like, here it is. Obama can do no wrong, because it's really Obama. 24 hours a day.
Well, and that's why I led you in with that one, because my good friend, the guy that is more committed to this show than he is to his own, conservative politics, my friend Pat here, is taking a little break. He's in Hawaii. He's doing, what would you say, Pat? You doing some snorkeling? You doing some...
I'm doing a whole lot of educating. I'm on a medical conference this year. It's one my brother and I would come to. We speak at it. We cover a range of different topics. It's really, honestly, it's one of the best medical conferences you can get. It's really low key. A lot of times you get into these big giant nerd fights that doctors get into all the time. None of that happens. People are respectful. It's an international flavor. We have a couple of docs from Mexico this year. We have 2 docs from Canada. And that's really, provides a very different perspective on what goes on in the rest of the world. What's funny is I travel quite a bit. And unless you travel, you don't get an idea what's going on otherwise. And a lot of the docs that we go to these conferences with, they don't travel outside of the United States. So having these people in there has been really a good time. Just to throw Obamacare under the bus if I can, this is how much the Hawaiians protect Obama. We arrived Thursday. Friday, the paper, front news headlines, Hawaii's physician population plunged 33% last year. Mm-hmm. Right? 33% of their physicians retired between January 1 of 2014 and December 31, 2014. So they're going through all this stuff. And of course, I'm going to write a blog about this. I think I've written a blog before about this, about physician retirement. So it goes through, and then the official word from the Hawaiian government is that the economy has improved so much under Obama that now all these physicians can afford to retire, so they did. That is the official take from the Hawaiian government. Now, when you talk to physicians from Hawaii, and we have a couple of them here, they point to one thing: the regulations that continually change under Obamacare. And even in the paper, they had 5 other physicians say, well, what's really happening is we have people that are graduating from their residency at University of Hawaii that simply choose not to go into medicine. And that's something that is a new phenomenon from last year. So I had to laugh at myself, because the official statement is, now that the economy is so good, physicians are retiring. And of course, I don't know a single physician where if the economy is good, they retire. Most of the physicians I know, when the economy gets bad, they retire. So anyway, I thought that was, I shared that with the group, and, the Canadian, he laughed out loud, but he says, well, I could see that. And I'm like, oh my goodness. So we do have a bunch of left-wingers out here, but, I'm used to that.
Well, you tend to gravitate towards folks on the left, and I continue to find myself surrounded by folks from the right. I think though that means more than anything else, Doc, is that rather than really respecting each other's opinions, we're just contrarians, don't like to be around our own people.
All right, you got me on that one. You got me on, I don't have a good response, because that sounds very true.
It probably is true. Well, we're coming up on a break here in a couple minutes, but I wanted to just let everybody know, and Doc, chime in here too. Let us know what we're talking about, because we're not just shooting the breeze here with Doc on vacation, even though he's feeling that breeze through his long flowing hair. We're talking State of the Union now. We've mentioned many times on this show how when something happens on a Tuesday, we don't get around to the next Tuesday. So you've probably already heard a lot of folks talk about the State of the Union. They've, the responses to it, the different, I don't know. Would you call them non-controversies, if you will, surrounding some of the things that came up out of the State of the Union? We would talk a lot about that for most of the hour. And then Doc went to did you go to the Freedom Rally on Saturday?
No, I didn't. No, because I was away.
Okay. I thought you left now.
What?
I thought you left after that, so I apologize.
I left before that, but I've seen a lot of people that have done recordings, and I've been watching the recordings. We've had a guest on the show a couple of times before. She's a great political operative. She's actually transcribed a lot of what was said there, including what Ben Carson said, which I think is a great thing to say. And we'll get into that a little bit later.
Okay.
But I figure we'll kind of, because they talked about the State of the Union address quite a bit. There is one thing I want to say that I want to address during this conversation about Joni Ernst's response, and that is, unless people stop focusing on fashion for political females, women politicians are always going to struggle to get ahead. I don't care what kind of shoes she wore. I think they're cute, don't get me wrong. But if somebody wore combat colored loafers to give the response, some guy, I don't think it would be the same. Nobody would care.
Well, no, yeah, but we're going to talk about all that when we get into the show.
You bet.
And
you bet.
Specifically, what about the Freedom event that you want to talk about?
Well, I want to talk about who I think the Freedom event essentially eliminated and essentially blessed. From what I saw, it was a very contrarian, and that's a good word. I'm glad you used it this time. Event. You had a lot of people standing up there saying, I don't want to be a GOPer, but I don't have a choice. That's the party that fits me best. You had a lot of that kind of talk. You had a lot of anti-establishment talk. And so, I just wanted to go over that. There's the usual folks that are in there with that are towing the party line really weren't received all that well. And there's basically the elitist Republicans that run the Republican Party and the hardcore Christian conservatives. We've talked about this before, but there continues to be a split. And it's getting larger and larger, and it's approaching a schism kind of thing, at least from
even more so than usual.
Yeah, even more so than usual. So, I think Jeb Bush came up and talked. I think several other Karl Rove wannabes were in there talking as well, and they just weren't received all that well. And of course, not to mention competing air shows. But Steve Deace has a pretty good take on this. So you probably ought to check him out on Facebook. He's got a couple of blogs out there about how, Christian conservatives basically say, we're not going to support people that support abortion. And there's a lot of, like Jeb Bush. The Bushes in general are social moderates. So they didn't get a lot of response from that.
Right on. Well, you were coming up on the first break, so we'll break down all that stuff here. In the next few little bits of the show that we've got coming up. So stick around and visit pay attention to our sponsors, and also check us out on Facebook, Twitter. We've got some blogs up on docandlefty.com. You definitely want to see that. The one, Doc, and maybe we'll talk about this too if we have time, Doc. Your one about marijuana, just this past one that just dropped on me like an anvil. So We'll maybe get to that in the next couple of weeks. But anyway, stick around. We will be right back. Doc Lefty.
How can I help you?
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere.
Whether you're 10, 25, 50, 80 years old and beyond, everyone needs to live within their means. I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America. For almost a quarter of a century, we've helped people of all ages learn to manage their personal finances to benefit them far into the future. When problems arise, we've got the experience you need to make those debt problems go away. Got financial problems? Call Consumer Credit of America.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for the Doc and Lefty program here on webcast1live.com. With me is, I'm alone in the studio today, but through the miracle of modern technology, my partner in crime, Dr. Petrosh, is with us via the Skype. I think that's what the kids call it. Doc, you still with me?
The Skype, just Skype.
It's just Skype. See, I'm not as good as you at that kind of stuff, so I don't really know what to call it. I don't sound hip, I guess.
Well, that's okay. You don't have to sound hip.
I appreciate that.
I think I just cut off the top part of my head.
No, there you go. No, you're looking relaxed.
Really good. So tell me what you thought about the president's State of the Union. Tell me some of what you thought were the strengths and some of the weaknesses.
Well, I'll tell you what. First of all, it was nice to hear a State of the Union where the president said, in this president at least, talked about the State of the Union being strong, and you kind of didn't want to choke down a laugh immediately. I mean, he pointed out some things that are really positive, that the unemployment rate is down below the level it was when the recession started, that we've had all this job growth over the last 56 months or so, or whatever it was, that the deficit is low, that healthcare inflation's down, all these different things that he's been able to point to. You kind of wonder why Democrats weren't running on that stuff before the 2014 midterms, Pat.
Well, yeah, and I would agree with that. There's the problem is there's been just enough of a recovery to have President Obama say, well, look at these numbers, look at the employment numbers. Our unemployment is down. But what he didn't say is our employment is up, our participation is up.
Well, no, so, they have, that is though. I mean, the job growth is finally. We've had all these consecutive months of job growth, and GDP, I think the projected number is at a sustainable, where we would want to see a healthy economy growing, and the stock market doubled over the last 6 years. So I guess here's the issue. All of that stuff being in the State of the Union is, presidents like to do that. I mean, Clinton did it, Bush did it when he could. And the problem with the Bush, one of the problems with the Bush presidency is he was bookended by recession. He started with a recession, kind of ended with a recession. So he had some, and also he had the Afghanistan-Iraq wars to deal with all the time. So the entire time he was in office. So his States of the Union were a little bit more bellicose, a little more foreign policy oriented, and I like to see this State of the Union kind of be more what it was for, or what it was originally intended to be for.
Well, do you think that Obama struck any kind of a conciliatory tone? No. Especially considering he's a lame duck president at this point.
Nope, he did not. And I did find that interesting. I did. And we can maybe talk a little bit more about that when we start talking about Joni Ernst, at least that the tone the that the Republican Congress is going to try and take with him, because they haven't come out guns blazing really either here in the first month. But no, I mean, he certainly didn't. What was the big line that's made it around the news cycle this past week is that when the Republicans were sarcastically clapping when he said he had no more campaigns to run, he said he knew that because he won them both. I mean, that's not a president who's taking shots to the chops.
But it is truthful. I mean, honestly, here he is crapping on. Well, he's not crapping on conservatives, but he's saying, I don't care. I'm president and I'm running this ship, and he gets all kind of bristly, verbally and figuratively, and then he flies over to India and gives the prime minister over there a great big hug. So you got to respect the guy's chutzpah, right?
Yeah, well, and it's interesting that he'd give the prime minister of India a great big hug because of how conservative that and how religiously oriented the Indian prime minister is. You'd think that they'd be a little bit more at odds.
Well, you would think, but President Obama I mean, his foreign policy has been, if he can't drone it, he'll hug it out. So I think that's kind of what he's trying to do here, is he can't really drone the Indians, so he's going to try to hug out whatever issues we might have, which is another, just as a brief foreign policy point, I have never understood why we are closer with the Chinese, who are ideological opposites, and not much closer with the Indians. So I really have never understood why we've taken that tack or approach, and that's been universal. That's been Republican and Democrat.
Well, it's kind of because we picked Pakistan, which is weird.
Yeah, well,
and India for so long was not allied but more closely aligned with the USSR. So
yeah, and I don't understand why. I don't, because ideologically, we're
yeah.
So
it's all right. This is the problem when we're corresponding over a distance like this. So I apologize for stepping on you there. But you read the transcript? You didn't actually watch it.
I didn't. I watched parts of it, but I did read the transcript.
What now? We both are consumers of this kind of thing. We understand the all the formalities we get when, for example, the one side doesn't clap and the other side does a standing ovation. We know why the Supreme Court doesn't just sits there like statues. What was it, a different experience? Well, obviously it was a different experience, but could you explain the kind of experience you had reading the transcript rather than watching it this time?
Well, the truth is words mean something. The problem is most of the context of words comes from the environment, which you don't get to participate in, right? You can't see what's going on. And two, it comes from a lot of body language. And you can't see that when you're reading a transcript. So for me, it seemed like I was looking down a tunnel. And instead of seeing the entire thing, I could only see the tunnel. And that's why I thought, did you think that he struck a conciliatory tone? When you read the words, it doesn't appear that he was aggressively going after the Republicans. And it seemed like, according to the words, that he was like, well, hold on, this is where we're at. We have 2 years till a new president. Let's start tamping down some of these loose ends and start moving forward. And since I've already solved the immigration problem, I'm going to veto anything you guys come up with.
And that's a pretty smart way to look at it. And when I say conciliatory, he had a couple of different shots, and he had some proposals that maybe we can talk about in the next segment, some specific, more concrete ones before we get to the responses, which I thought were interesting. But no, not conciliatory, but also not hyper partisan, which made a lot of the grand gestures and things, and then the last sort of 10 minutes of the speech were all, we need to come together as a country, hope and change, so on and so forth. And you kind of wonder why the Republicans were sitting on their hands as much as they were, given the fact that he didn't go out of his way to take shots, except that one moment when they kind of started it.
Well, what do you mean that one moment when they kind of started it?
Well, when he said he didn't have any more campaigns to run, and a bunch of them started clapping and cheering, and that's what he said.
Yeah,
and he won them both.
And that's part of the thing that I miss, right? I miss those things, right? And the bottom line is President Obama has not struck a conciliatory tone. Whenever he talks about bipartisanship, he talks about doing it his way. And that's what his actions speak. I don't think the Republicans are anticipating anything different for the next 2 years. It's just that they understand that they now have to play it a little bit different, because not only do they have to deal with Obama, they got to deal with Obama's little buddy, Boehner, because Boehner has provided cover for Obama multiple times during this presidency. So you have people that really want to drag the country back to a more conservative tone, but they've understood that they have to not only overcome Obama, but they have to overcome the GOP leadership.
Well, maybe we'll talk about some of those more concrete, specific things in the next segment, but right now we got to take another break. This is the Doc and Lefty program. We do the Facebook, we do the Twitter, we do the docandlefty.com, we do the writing sometimes, at least on my part. So please stick around, enjoy our social media, and take a look at our sponsors. We'll be right back.
Hey, psst. Let me let you in on a little secret. You ready? always try to do business with people, not places, especially if you seek honest Christian business people. And when it comes to my car, I really need to trust who's working on it. Now, my family is so blessed. A few years ago, we found a family-owned automobile repair shop that operates as a Christian business also. Open, honest, reliable, trustworthy. It's AMCO on Hickman Road in front of Kmart, and it's a family-owned Christian operating business. This family treats your car as if it was their car. Everything from oil changes to transmission repair and everything in between. So the next time you feel the need to be at peace with your choice of who you can trust with your car, give AMCO on Hickman a chance to serve you. And tell them Max sent you. From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. This is Lefty in Des Moines, the big man on campus. My partner, Doc Petrosh, is taking a little time off in Hawaii. And when he takes time off the way we both take time off. He's still working when he's over there. And what we're breaking down the State of the Union that happened last week, and we're talking about we touched some of the broad themes. Now I want to get a little bit more granular, a little bit more specific into some of the things that Obama talked about, and maybe discuss whether or not there are any chances for, any of this stuff happening in the lame duck session. He's got 2 years left. So, Doc, I'm curious, and I'll kind of throw out a couple of the things out there that he mentioned specifically. One that's gotten a little bit of play is this idea of free community college. And it sounded like there are some caveats on there, but do you think that has any chance of passing this Republican Congress in the next 2 years?
I don't think it had any chance of passing a Democratic Congress. The problem with offering free education here in the U.S. is twofold. One, you have banks making bank, a ton of money on interest rates on student loans. And number two, you have a lot of politicians who need bank money in order to run. That is one of the nasty things about our current educational system is people mortgage their future in order to get a degree that may or may not be helpful, and a lot of times is completely worthless. Don't get me wrong, I think an art degree is terrific, but I don't think you need to have an art degree in order to do art, right? And so, those are, and I'm not being critical of those with art degrees, but let's face it, art degrees are not going to help you find a lucrative job. Just like a social work degree is not going to help you find a lucrative job. So the problem really comes down to is twofold. One, influence peddlers like this system of education that we have, and number two, the banks who finance a lot of the campaigns love the money that they get, because if they make a bad loan to a child, which is what a teenager is, they get the government to pay them back. I mean, how can you lose with that, right? I'm so excited I hit my camera, right? That's how crappy I think the idea of our current system is. So I think for that reason, it's not going to go anywhere. The second thing do you think it's a good idea to make it easier to lower the bar of entry to some of these community college situations? Like he pointed out in the speech that Tennessee does it and that Chicago does it, and they've seen some success. Well, but like everything, education is served best locally, and if that's what they want to do on a local level, I support that. But keep in mind, not every place is going to be where that's going to help and work. These are local people using local solutions for a local problem. The second thing is if you say suddenly community college is free, how do you determine who gets the free college or not? How do you determine that? And what happens to those that don't necessarily have an academic talent, but have a physical talent, or like construction or music, something like that? How do you determine what it is? And I think that's best determined on a local level and not on a national level.
Sure. Let's see. One of the other things that was in there, minimum wage. Any chance?
I believe, I think that if, let's keep in mind, Obama has outmaneuvered the GOP just about every single time on every major issue. That's just the bottom line. Now, you can call it bad leadership on the GOP's part, which is what I think. You can just call it practical politics. You can call it whatever you want. But the bottom line is regardless of what you think of Obama, this guy is brilliant at how he maneuvers. He is a consummate politician. And I think that if the Republicans aren't careful and that they don't get ahead of this issue and reframe it in a way that is more acceptable to the population, I think there's a pretty good chance we're going to have a minimum. It won't even be a minimum wage fight, but I believe there will be an increase in the minimum wage. A lot of cities have already done it, and I think this is an issue that Obama can win on, and that Republicans, because of their lack of leadership, will lose on. Just like, Obama said straight out, do not screw with my executive orders regarding immigration, because that is now over and settled. I don't think it's over and settled, but the Republicans had better come up with a plan. That's been the problem their whole time.
Yep.
From the Clinton era till now, they had a chance to come up with a plan for health care. They didn't. And, and I can't tell you how many conservative doctors have told the leadership, and I'm one of them, this is a plan you need. And they just ignore it. It's going to be the same with immigration. If they don't come up with a plan that's going to be palatable to the American people, that shows that they are compassionate and also just, they're going to get stuck they're going to get hammered in the 2016 elections because of their stance. So they better come up with something good.
Immigration. He mentioned immigration. You talked about don't mess with the order, the executive orders. Is there going to be any sort of comprehensive reform at all in the next 2 years?
Yeah, well, I don't believe so. I believe that the Republicans are going to leave it alone because they're afraid to take on Obama. The problem is we've talked about Congressman King before about, you've even said, man, this guy's brilliant. He's on the ball, but then he gets up there and alienates the average Joe, right? Mm-hmm. Because a lot of things he says. If he hadn't alienated those people, I think that he could have been a voice of real leadership. Instead, he's like us. He's the contrarian, right? So the bottom line is I think unless Boehner changes his stripes or Cantor actually steps up and says, listen.
Well, Cantor's out.
Oh, that's right. I forgot. Who's the minority whip now, or majority whip there?
The guy with all the David Duke problems, whose name I can't remember.
Right.
Solis. Yeah.
So unless they come up with something grand, I don't think the House Republicans are going to be doing anything. Mitch McConnell is still in charge in the Senate for the Republicans. Nothing is going to go that way. These people are not interested in rocking the boat. They're interested in trying to get a 2016 contender into the White House. That's what they're concerned about.
Okay, and we'll talk about who that contender might be when we get into some of the responses to the State of the Union. Right after this, we'll be right back. This is the Doc and Lefty program on webcast1live.com. You can check out the show on YouTube at our YouTube channel. You can leave us a message on Facebook. You can get a hold of us. Follow us on Twitter. You can also check out the blogs we have on the website. And we will be right back. Thank you very much for listening.
Bertroche and Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Bertroche, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at bertrocheandassociates.com for more information or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Bertroche and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around for this second half hour of Doc and Lefty here on webcast1live.com and also on doclefty.com. This is Lefty. We're talking about the State of the Union. My partner in crime, Patrick Bertroche, the Doc of Doc and Lefty fame, is taking a little time to see the sights in beautiful Hawaii for this show, but he is, because he can't take a time off without working, he's on Skype with us today. So, Doc, we've talked a little bit about what's going on in the State of the Union. Now let's talk about the responses. You know, these I thought were just kind of weird. Now, we didn't have just the official Republican response. We didn't have what has been more recent, the official Tea Party Republican response. We had three responses. We had Senator Joni Ernst from right here in Iowa, giving the official Republican response. We had the Tea Party response from, oh boy, and I told you, Clausen, Representative Chris Clausen, yes, give the Tea Party response, and then Rand Paul, I guess, giving the Rand Paul response. And Doc, just before we break these three responses down, what do you think about what's going on here? Three responses to the State of the Union when historically there's only been one.
Well, I think, like we talked a little bit about earlier in the show and before the show, I think there is a giant, the split in the Republican Party isn't going away. It's actually getting worse. Just having Rand Paul give his own response shows that there's a split a fourth way, because we talk about the Christian conservatives versus the who are basically social and fiscal conservatives versus the establishment versus the Tea Party. And now we kind of got the Paulistas have kind of separated themselves from the Tea Party and are going out more on the libertarian side of it. And, you know, we had Lee Heeb, who is the libertarian candidate for governor. She explained a lot of what they were about when she was on the show. So you're actually having a four-way split in the Republican Party. And like we pointed out, and how you pointed out, back in the 80s, it was a similar kind of thing. But I think this is now going from a split to a schism. And it's very telling right up front that these other two people felt the need to have their own response, even though they all consider themselves part of the Republican Party, right? I mean, that's who they congregate with. So it's kind of like having, you know, a bunch of penguins get together and one of them says, hold on, I'm an emperor penguin and I'm going to give a response, and I'm a regular penguin and I'm going to give that response, and then I'm a small little penguin and I'm going to give this response. So I mean, it really shows the problems that the leadership is having keeping the Republicans organized.
Well, the Tea Party response at least has a couple of State of the Unions under its belt at this point, and at least since 2020, I guess 2010, 2011, when they kind of came into power, and so I guess, or at least came into a little bit of influence, and that was really the first wave. And I am probably going to go on a limb here. I'm not a perfect historian by any means. I'm sure that we have seen something like this in the past, although the live State of the Union address given by a president is a, you know, as far as the history of the country is concerned, is a more recent phenomena. They used to be delivered on paper and just kind of behind, you know, done behind closed doors. But Senator Rand Paul responding to it was weird. I watched the whole thing, and it was just weird to me because, I mean, he took swipes at Republicans, he took swipes at the military, he took swipes at Hillary Clinton. It was the strangest thing, and the only justification that I can think of, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that this was a campaign speech. This was his first Bigfoot campaign speech for 2016. What do you think about that?
Oh, I hate it when I agree with you, but
I know
agree.
you do.
You're absolutely correct. I haven't read it all through, but I've read probably 3/4 of it, and you are absolutely correct. There is no reason for him to go out and launch these diatribes as he had, unless it's to motivate the Paulista base, the libertarian base. He hit every libertarian point out there. He attacked the Republicans and what they failed to do. He attacked the Democrats and what they have done. He attacked sending troops overseas. He attacked the use of drones. He attacked Obamacare. He attacked the immigration policy. Everything out there he nailed, got it down. And the bottom line is he's really trying to motivate his base. Keep in mind, when Ron Paul ran, his base was the most organized base out there. And not only that, they are fanatics. You cannot get them to back off. You can't get them to change their mind. They're voting for at the time, Ron Paul, or we're not voting. That's what we saw. And I think he's trying to capture that same base that his dad had, and he's going to try to make a serious run. I think he learned from his dad's missteps, particularly in foreign policy, and I think that he's trying to put together a good run.
But he went after the military. He went the strong defense that he talked about was scaling back from foreign intervention and letting the Middle East duke it out, which is anathema to Republican foreign policy for the last 30, 40 years.
Well, it's been anathema to Democratic foreign policy.
But see, Democrats don't have somebody on their right or on their left flank talking about it, though. That's what's different.
And that's true. And that to me, that shows that the Republican Party can't get it together. Now, where Ron Paul misstepped is when he said, well, Iran is not a threat to us. Right then, I remember being at that debate when he said it, and you could see the entire audience, including the libertarians, all go, oh, man, what did he say? Rand Paul is taking a little bit different approach. He's saying the Middle East has always been in conflict. I think we need to pull out. I think we need to reestablish and refocus on our security at home instead of focusing on sending our troops overseas. That's a much more palatable way to say what Ron Paul said. And like I said, I think that he's getting to the point where he's softening a lot of the points that his dad made and still trying to get the Paulistas to get behind him. Because I do believe there's a split in the Libertarian Party between straightforward libertarians like Stossel and Hebe and a little bit more radical libertarians, which is really a funny phrase, I guess, like the Paulistas have.
Did he do himself any favors? Did he help or hurt himself by coming out? And honestly, I think, and we'll talk about this here in a second, but and maybe you can answer this after the break because we're coming up on another one. Do you think that Rand Paul helped or hurt his cause by trying to sort of step onto the same national stage as the president and without any kind of quote-unquote official party backing whatsoever? It's kind of like even Ted Cruz didn't have the marbles to do this. And so we'll get to the answer to that question in the next segment. This is Doc and Lefty. Please, we've got our sponsors, and this is the first time I mentioned them, and oh my gosh, I can't believe it. We've got Des Moines Anesthesia PC, Bertroshan Associates, that's Doc's Outfit, Labinas Law Firm, my folks, Halo Capital at DesMoinesInterstraits.com. And please check out the website, docandlefty.com. Also, follow us on Twitter. Leave us a comment on Facebook. If you feel like you want to call, I'll give you Doc's personal cell phone number. We're kind of pressed for time. But anyway, please stay tuned for the next segment. We'll get into the responses here on docandlefty.com. Thanks.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Get away from us, you mean old credit card. We don't have any more money. We're in trouble now. Save us! Help! Somebody save us! Somebody help! Help! Save us!
Hi, I'm Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of Des Moines. If your credit card's a little too animated, give us a call.
Hooray, we're saved! Consumer Credit, you're our hero!
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Lefty here with the Doc and Lefty program, talking about the State of the Union, talking about the responses. Doc, I want to get right into this. I don't want to waste a lot of time because we're running out of it rapidly. But did Rand Paul do himself any favors, or did it look kind of just like posturing?
Well, I don't think that he did himself any favors. I do believe it's posturing. He's trying to solidify his base, which is his dad's base. This is the same kind of thing that Ron Paul did before he ran each time, and I think Rand Paul is just following along. Whether this is going to pan out the way he wants to or not is really going to depend on how the police is solidified behind Rand. There's several of people. In fact, my former receptionist it was Ron Paul's campaign manager in Iowa, and they really kind of distrust Rand Paul because he moderates what he says much more so than Ron Paul. I mean, keep in mind, Ron Paul's charm was he said what he thought. Yep. And Rand Paul is much more circumspect, and I think that's a little bit of a trust issue for the police. I know that when he spoke in Des Moines, he got a pretty solid response. I know like Jeb Bush and other. What do I want to say? The people that are part of the administration, not the administration, but the establishment, they weren't received very well at all. In fact, when some of these pro-establishment people got up there in the GOP and the Freedom Rally, there's hardly any response. Some people nodded politely, but the people that really seemed to galvanize the Freedom Rally was Rick Santorum. He got up there and spoke about abortion and gay marriage and got a resounding applause. And keep in mind, he really did well in the Iowa caucuses the last time around. I mean, surprisingly well.
He technically won them.
Yeah, well, yes, he did. He won them. But
yeah, well, I thought the whole thing was weird. You can find all these responses plus the State of the Union anywhere on the internet. They're pretty freely available. But I want to talk about the big one, the real one. I'm going to call it the real one, actually, the real response. Joni Ernst, our newly minted senator from Iowa, joining Chuck Grassley in the Senate, representing the state of Iowa, gave the official Republican response to the President's State of the Union address. Now, I know we're talking about Joni now, but it's more of a global criticism of responses, and you see it every time the out party gives a response. It's pre-prepared. It doesn't address the response head on the way that like a rebuttal would, and they're never very good. I mean, I thought Joni Ernst did a fine job delivering her speech, but the responses always fall flat. You can't follow the president when he's there in Congress. The entire government is around him, and he speaks for an hour, and you've got 10 minutes. So, Doc, you watched Joni Ernst's response. What'd you think of it?
I will tell you, I think the truth of the matter is she was the best response we'd had in decades. And I say
Republicans?
Decades. If the Republican response to a Democratic president is the best that we've had, period. Under Clinton, we didn't have tremendous responses, and under Obama, we didn't have tremendous responses. But Joni Ernst, given the limited amount of time that she had and the narrow window in which she had to give the response, hit all the major points, was charming, wasn't alienating anybody, said what she was supposed to do, and carried it off, I think, quite well. I think one of the things I posted on Facebook, Rabbi Kaufman, I'm sure you know him. He wrote on there, and he's usually a pretty lefty kind of guy. But he got a little bit upset about the Democrats attacking Joni Ernst and her bread and her store-bought bread bag story. And the bottom line is he has a very good point. What do Democrats have to be proud of to attack people when they tell stories of how poor they had been? When they're attacking poor people, they're attacking what they're supposed to be standing up for. Which, I was about ready to write a blog, but I posted his instead because he was much more articulate than anything I could have had. And I think it's really a shame that, one, that's what the attention was, focused on her bread bag shoes, because honest to goodness, I grew up wearing bread bags. All my neighbors living out in the country wore bread bags, and that's to protect your shoes so you don't have to buy them.
Well, you see, this is the thing. I think one of the issues, and I didn't hear Democrats talk about it as much as I heard people in the media kind of laugh up their sleeves at this lady from Iowa who I think.
Well, people in the media are Democrats.
No, they're not. But anyway,
identify themselves 90% as Democrats.
No, we're not talking about that right now. We're talking about Joni Ernst. So,
and I'm not in the studio.
Right. That's right. So anyway, she used this story on the stump, and that's perfectly fine. But you see a lot more of the kind of the chuckling about it or the snide comments coming from folks who aren't criticizing a conservative person telling a story or making fun of poor people so much as they are kind of snickering at the woman that did the Make 'Em Squeal ad that has got all these homey aphorisms and all, here's the problem that I had with it. At the same time that our governor, Terry Branstad, who happens to be on your team, buddy, is talking about Iowa being the tech state of the future and doing all these innovations and leading the way in renewable fuels and wind power and all these and all this stuff is true, making these great strides in industry and education and being tops and among the most little p progressive. I don't mean progressive politically, but just making strides. And into the 21st century, you've got our new senator talking about bread bags. Now, this is what I got to say about this. It's not a universal Iowa story. My dad was a school teacher. My mom was a lab tech when we were growing up. They were older. My dad's retired. My mom still is a lab tech manager in Minnesota. But I went to elementary school in a town with 700 people. Okay, this did not speak to my experience whatsoever. When I went to school in my good shoes, they got muddy, and then my mom made me clean them off in the sink. So. This is not something, and I know a lot of kids who are like that. A lot of dirty shoes rather than bread bags on their shoes. So I think maybe it's more of a generational thing than it is a universal Iowa story.
Well, and that may be true. The other thing is I don't think we should be focusing on Joni Ernst's shoes at all.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So what? I liked how she's dressed. She's dressed nice. She's supposed to dress nice.
But why are we talking? Here's my question, though.
Yeah.
What is it about women on the conservative side of politics that all of a sudden, maybe that's what it is, now all of a sudden conservatives are, oh my gosh, this sexism in the media for women politicians? I had no idea. It's like they're walking into Rick's casino in Casablanca and say, what gambling? We don't have any gambling here. It blows my mind. It blows my mind.
Well, I don't think it's a new phenomenon.
Well, of course it's not a new phenomenon. That's my point.
It's not a new phenomenon. And for Republicans to start pointing it out, I think what it is you've been talking to the wrong Republicans. Ever since I was in high school, I remember having debates with people about what does it matter if you're going to what clothes you wear, what your hairstyle is.
Yep.
That doesn't matter. And keep in mind, outside of Al Gore, people do pay attention to that, but it isn't life or death like it is for female politicians. And it just irks me.
Yeah.
You had Sarah Palin and her outfits, and I'm like, that doesn't matter. Because at the same time, there's President Obama with a wardrobe at least 10 times more expensive. right?
Well, no, it's true, and I mean, and all the comments about Chelsea Clinton when she was growing up in the White House and all that kind of stuff. It's uncalled for. But we got to go to another break. But I want to keep talking about this, or I'll leave you with this, and you can respond to it here after the break, Doc. Is that the flip side of this? And this is not a partisan issue either. The flip side of this is, why is it that women politicians find the need to express themselves as a mom first and talk about their kids first? So maybe we can talk about that after the break, but we do have to go to one quick. We got sponsors: Des Moines Anesthesia, Petrosha Associates, Levinas Law Firm, Halo Capital, Facebook, Twitter. Thank you to Webcast One Live for providing the studio space, and we'll be right back after this break.
Petrosha Associates will provide you with a friendly, caring, and confidential place to find help for mental health concerns. We are ready for your call. We are proud to work with military personnel and their families. Our doctor, Dr. J. Patrick Petrosh, provides a full range of psychiatric services for children, adolescents, and adults in a forthright and informative manner while maintaining a casual, comfortable, and relaxed atmosphere. Our licensed mental health therapists provide individual counseling to children, adolescents, and adults, including couples and marital counseling. Visit our website at petroshandassociates.com for more information, or call 515-334-9484. Our offices are located at 5525 Meredith Drive in Des Moines, just east of Skate North off Merle Hay Road. Isn't it time to talk to someone? Take care of yourself and your family. Contact Petrosh and Associates.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for sticking around. We're rolling into the last segment. So, Doc, sorry to cut you off there, but we had to go to the break. But I think the point that I was making is that the flip side of this, and both, you saw Stacey Apple do it in the midterm. You saw Joni Ernst make that a central part of her campaign. So while we are right to criticize members of the media and male politicians for pointing out when women are dressed nice when they're running political campaigns, or their physical appearance, or on either side of what you think about it, do women open themselves up for criticism by pointing out when they're moms and making that a feature, because guys don't do that a lot and aren't really expected to? What do you think about that?
Well, the thing is tough. I mean, just to paraphrase an old 70s song, it's tough to be a woman. You have all these different societal expectations that, frankly, have changed so rapidly from not even from generation to generation, but intra-generationally, that women really don't know what to do when they're faced with politics. Joni Ernst, being from my generation, did what girls in my generation do. Well, I am woman, hear me roar. I have a family. I have a job. And not only do I have a job, I have a very important job. And that's what women in my generation did. That's what they wanted to be known for. Not only could I bring home the bacon, I can fry it up too. We had commercials when I was a kid like that. That's really what they want. The problem comes from a little bit older generation, like Hillary Clinton. People in that generation, women in that generation, basically had to be, I don't know if subservient isn't the right word, but they had to be very conscious of their social role. And over a period of time, that consciousness has changed. A lot of these, the Representative Love, I think she was from from Colorado. I can't remember where she's from. Anyway, she ran a program of, this is who I am and this is where I stand. And yes, I'm a woman. I'm proud to be a woman, but I'm here on my credentials. She ran on that fairly well. She didn't spend a lot of time saying, I'm a wife, I'm a mother, I have kids, these are my dreams, this is how feminine I can be, yet tough. And I think it's a generational and intergenerational thing, and particularly for how people dress, because I know this Representative Love had been criticized a couple of times for the way she had been dressing. And I just think it's ridiculous. Women are tough. The women I know are tough as nails. For crying out loud, they give birth. I don't know if you've ever given birth, but I don't want to do it.
Only twice, and it wasn't a picnic. Anyway, so back to the speech. Were you surprised that she didn't take more shots of the president given the landslide in 2014?
No, I'm not. And like I said, I think before, as I said before, the Republicans are not necessarily interested in digging up a fight against a lame duck president that has shown a willingness to do whatever it takes to get his way. I mean, you have to give Obama that kind of credit. The other thing is the Republicans also, like I said before, not only do they have to worry about Obama, they have to worry about their own leadership. So they're not interested in going full bore against the president and having him being able to utilize the media to his satisfaction. What they're trying to do is just tamp things down, do the things that they can do in order to set up the Republican nominee in 2016. The last thing Republicans want are a whole lot of problems that the media can feed on in 2016. I think that's why the response from the Republican side, the official Republican side, was really rather muted. I think she said the right things, but I don't think she said anything out of the ordinary.
Fair enough. Okay, we got about 5 minutes left, Doc. The Freedom event. What were your major takeaways from what you heard about it?
Well, it's Christians versus non-Christians. That's really what I took away from it. And I don't mean that these people aren't Christians and don't have Christian values. It's not what drives them. They have other things. The Christian conservative at this event were the ones that got the standing ovations, were the ones that were praised. People wanted to meet, and the establishment Republicans, who are Christians themselves, basically were, great, appreciate you standing up. We really don't want you to run again. That was really the flavor of it. Seeing a lot of these speeches that the people gave, it was just basic stuff that people need to say. Ben Carson, who's maybe campaign manager, was on our show, gave probably the best tagline. And that tagline was, "We are from the land of the free and the home of the brave, but you have to be brave to be free." And he delivered that in such a way where the entire place erupted. And he talked about social conservatism. He talked about constitutional rights. He talked about all the right things for a super conservative. And he's the one that got the best stuff going on. Rick Santorum talked. People cheered. People love Rick Santorum. They just don't think he can win the presidency. He's got a very small base, but they're very rabid, just like a Paulista. Rand Paul spoke, and people seem to like him as well. But the essential feeling was it's going to be the conservative Christians with the money against basically everybody else. It's the establishment, the libertarians, all that other stuff, and that's not going to work out well for the Republican Party in the long run.
Well, and it sounds a lot like what the Iowa Republican Party has kind of become under the over the last 6 years. That just sort of a little bit disconnected from the establishment Republican Party and the rest of the country. You saw that in the caucuses. You saw that with in 2012, and you saw that back in 2008 when Mike Huckabee won, and that's what's gonna be interesting. But Doug, you have some final. I'm gonna give you the last word. We got about 45 seconds.
All right. Well, one, I want to say hi to Katya and Dasha. Hi, your Uncle Pat's on the radio again. The second thing I want to say is I've been reading a lot of different newspapers out here, and one thing that is universal, and it doesn't matter what newspaper I read unless it was from Iowa, it doesn't matter what newspaper I read. They all said the same thing. Iowa's influence on presidential politics is way outside of what it should be. So keep in mind, there's going to be a lot of pressure for Iowans to get this next presidential election right, being the first in the nation. I also want to say thanks to my partner in crime, Blake, who's always doing a great job on here. This is, I think we had a terrific show today.
Oh, well, I appreciate that, buddy. Thanks, Maddie Kane, on the ones and twos and the board. And thanks to all our listeners who have been so nice, so generous with your Facebook likes and your comments on our various offerings to the ever-widening ever-deepening discourse that is the internet in 2015. So thank you to our sponsors, Des Moines Anesthesia, Halo Capital, Bertrosian Associates, Labinas Law Firm, and please come back next week when we are bringing you more perspectives that you love from the sides you hate. On behalf of my good buddy Doc Bertrosian, I'll let him back to his vacation at this point. This is Lefty saying we will see you next Tuesday. Thanks, everybody.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys, both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Get over here. Love both of them.